Hi, I'm Jesse Gillis. This is the program Now is the Time to Talk, and I'm your host. Today with me I have a returning guest, Dia. Dia is a veteran, member of Veterans for Peace, New Hampshire, as I am, and a member of About Face, Veterans Against the War. We've had a previous episode, which I highly recommend to watch on Merrimack TV. Dia, would you like to say anything else about yourself?
Sure. I am also chair of the Independent Collective Caucus for the New Hampshire Congress of Workers' Organizations. It is a leftist coalition of different organizations, all seeking to help improve locally here in New Hampshire our quality of life and fill in where locally things start falling short.
Okay. So today we're going to be talking about the war economy, some things veterans do when they're upset with U.S. foreign policy or how our government is betraying us, whether veterans or not. And this is May 7th, so maybe 2-3 weeks ago, there was a big action in D.C. where several veterans groups, Veterans Fighting for Peace, assembled. They mobilized in D.C. to make a protest, a peaceful protest, where they occupied a building and they did a flag folding ceremony for the victims of the war on Iran, particularly the school that was hit, that 170 schoolgirls were killed. But they also demanded to speak to House Majority Leader Mike Johnson, who refused to see them. And I just want to read off this statement by a group, the president of 5051 Veterans. American politics is very comfortable praising veterans in the abstract. Veterans are thanked at games, invoked in speeches, and used to decorate the moral image of the state. But the moment veterans stop serving as patriotic scenery and start speaking with moral clarity about what war actually is, the response changes fast. How does that sound to you?
That's an important one. They were all arrested.
Yeah.
They protested peacefully. I believe it was the rotunda at the White House or one of the congressional buildings.
Mm-hmm.
They protested at the rotunda, and all of them were arrested. And you see all of them. I believe a majority were wearing their service uniforms, or they were wearing the cami tops for whatever branch they were a part of. And you watch them all in zip ties being walked out, and it's reminiscent of the hypocrisy that's said there, where so long as you stay in line, you'll be one of the supported troops, right? But support the troops as a phrase comes with an asterisk. Stay in line, or you'll end up like that, being walked out in uniform with zip ties behind your back.
To speak against any current war that's collectively in our consciousness is to not follow that line.
Exactly. It happened in Vietnam. Any veterans who also spoke out face the same consequences, same fate, even to today. Right? They're speaking out. Those who fought in the war on terrorism, right? The war on terror. You continuously see the government silence any oppression that they can find. And even those who went overseas and fought, they're demonized. They're seen as the wrong ones, the ones who've been poisoned. And like the quote says, it's being able to view things morally. It is only immoral that we're over there bombing schools, bombing homes. There's no justification behind that. There's no military targets behind that. We're there purely for the profit. And there's no profit either way now. So now veterans going out and speaking against it in troves, right? And it wasn't just in D.C. That was one of the big actions, the bigger ones. But you go anywhere and you speak out against it. I see so vividly the Marine who was arrested in his dress blues, who got his arm broken by, I think it was a senator.
Who also served. Right?
Who also served.
Yeah.
But, in his dress blues, standing there, it took 4 people to drag out the Marine. I believe it was a Marine sergeant. But even then, in dress blues, you'll still be carried out, you'll still be seen as the enemy, wearing the uniform of the country. And that is a horrifying thing.
So I hear some people come up. We just had the May Day event,
Yes.
tabling, VFP. People come up, and some people say, oh, you're a veteran. Oh, I always listen to veterans. They know best. And blanket statements like that, I don't think help, because it should be based on what I'm saying. Because we have veterans serving in Congress. We have veteran officials. We have people. There are people that have worn a uniform, whatever branch it is, and done whatever they've done overseas or at home. But what are they speaking to? So just because I'm at Veterans for Peace, I'm a member, and I detest this war and what we're doing over there, it doesn't mean why am I against this war. It matters the substance of what I'm talking about, because
Absolutely.
for every one of us, how many veterans are for these things?
Exactly.
All of a sudden, 47 years we've been at war with Iran, I'm hearing now, from other veterans. And I think, what is that based upon? Where is that coming from? Yeah, but to speak against it, to be against U.S. foreign policy like that we're going to war for what reason, when it currently, I mean, you have to forget every war in the past, the justifications for it that allowed it to happen, and then afterwards we can lament, it's a shame. And I have a couple of other quotes of famous veterans speaking to what may have been a popular war at the time, until later you can lament that, we shouldn't have done that later. I do not think there was ever a more wicked war than the war waged by the United States on Mexico. I thought so at the time when I was a youngster, only I had not moral courage enough to resign. The U.S.-Mexico War was in 1948 to like 1950, I think.
1800s.
Oh, sorry, 1848. This is 12 years, like 10, 12 years prior to the Civil War. That was Ulysses S. Grant, who later became the president. But this is him speaking in his memoirs earlier. Lamenting Eisenhower in his farewell address speech, lamenting the military-industrial complex. It's always too late. By the time these people say anything, it's already done. The deed is done. I have not seen that we do not intend to free. I have seen that we do not intend to free, but to subjugate the people of the Philippines. That's war against Spain. Right? This is remember the Maine and Havana Harbor. This is the acquisition of Cuba and Philippines and Puerto Rico. But that was Mark Twain, veteran who had served. And what were we doing? Why did we go to the Philippines? How did we treat those people? Did it look any different than we treat the people of West Asia in our drone assassinations? These are veterans who are speaking out against the war. It matters what the substance is, what they're saying. What do you think?
And it all comes to imperialism. They wanted, when I say they, the United States wanted its turn at the table of imperialism, colonialism, right? It talks about subjugation. We wanted to create a mirror government in the Philippines, right? And the Philippines consider us very close friends because they didn't get what happened with Vietnam, where we tried to put our own proxy government there. And we saw how Vietnam ended. And now Vietnam, they're indifferent with us, if not friendly, but they're certainly not in the same kind of relationship that the Philippines was.
Mm-hmm.
And that exists purely as a result of the attempted colonialism that the United States did. Attempted to do, performed, still does. And we today went to Venezuela. I say today, recently, in recent history, in recent times, went to Venezuela. Mm-hmm. We ousted the sitting president of Venezuela. Mm-hmm. And we put somebody friendly to us in there. It's the same thing we've been doing since post-World War II. Any opportunity that we get to influence some kind of policy because we don't like what's happening, we'll step in and we'll make changes as we see fit. We'll destabilize the economy. We'll remove everything out. It's almost never at the interest of the American people. It's almost always at the interest of the American corporations and whatever will make them money. Smedley Butler had, his piece, War is a Racket.
Mm-hmm.
And Marines will know Smedley Butler. It's all to make money and profit, and it all feeds the same machine and feeds to the same groups in the end every single time. And you want to see where will this end? Will it end? Right? And now we have Iran with the current blockades in the Strait, and it's affecting our economy now. And they're pressing for, if you don't accept these terms, we're going to bomb you and it's not going to be very good for you. Because Americans at home are sweating. We're sweating because people are struggling to afford anything now. I saw gas prices hitting almost $6.
Where was this?
In California.
Oh, yeah, okay. It is high. And of course, regional variations.
Regional.
High.
I saw
high.
almost $5 up here. Just down the road, I saw $4.60.
I do periodically ask people at work at Riviera. I ask people, coworkers, like, "Oh, how's gas?" Or I lead to it, and now it's like, "Oh, it is high. This is getting high. This is not." Okay, why is it high? What is going on? What are we doing?
We're actively messing with the current trade systems that exist, and we want the export of oils to be able to be allowed, but because we're interfering with the Strait and Iran isn't allowing ships to go through the Strait, demand goes up, but there's no product, there's nothing available. So now everything's running very thin, and whatever is available, you don't know when you're going to get more, so you got to drive the price up, and that expands until one gallon starts costing almost $5 a gallon. And that's just unsustainable. And it's because they don't want to admit defeat. Mm-hmm. They being the U.S. government.
And we'll eat the prices.
We'll continue
until we.
And you'll still hear people say, "I support what we're doing."
Yeah.
Blindly, not a single care in the world.
I heard, reminiscent to when the Ukraine-Russia war kicked off, it was your patriotic duty to pay a higher price at the pump. Mm-hmm. To support Ukraine. And I've only heard one commentator, General Jack something on Fox News, like, it's your patriotic duty. We're in a war. You pay a higher price. Well, you can't pay a little extra at the pump? Well, for what? For what are we doing that's driving the price? And they're not gouging? Our oil companies aren't gouging us on this?
Oh, yeah.
Taking advantage of a crisis?
Absolutely.
We just went through COVID. There was some serious price gouging.
They absolutely are. And they'll never hesitate to exploit us. We're the working class. We're the peasants to them. They can exploit us all day, every day, and the government won't ever take action against them. In fact, they'll subsidize them.
Yeah, because then it come back in nice lobbying contributions.
And then whatever senators, whatever Congress people supported them and didn't make moves to make them play fairly, they'll get a nice donation afterwards. And that's the game. And it's a game. The fact that we can sit here fully aware and fully know that lobbying is a game, because it's all about how much you can pad your own numbers and how much you can make your own safety net. Because you get all of these people who go in with these good intentions, but then the corporations come in and they lobby and they'll say, either play the game or we're going to fund the primary against you and you're not going to be here anymore. And it's very rare to see, or too few in number to see, those who don't take the money from those lobbies or those corporations. And you almost always see them win pretty handedly when they announce, like, I'm not taking any money from these big PACs, because Americans are frankly tired of it. Now, finally, after so long, mm-hmm. more and more Americans are realizing these people don't have our best interests in mind. And I need to start voting in that mindset. Who's taking money from who? And now that's starting to come into view.
To transition that, because we'll come back to the politics at the end here, we just had our May Day event.
May
and
Day,
you,
yes.
You gave a speech.
I did.
Would you like to read some of it? Or?
Yeah, sure. So May Day, for those who don't know, it's International Workers' Day. It's a culminating day of a long history in the United States and the world of the working class, the workers coming together and truly representing what it means to fight against and come together. Solidarity among workers is one of the strongest tools we have. Unions, historically in this country, and veterans are the most likely to join a union because a lot of our skills and trade translate to those groups that already have unions. But May Day in New Hampshire, we recently had it. You can look it up on Google. There's a nice video that shows a little summary of everything.
Oh yeah, it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube if you look up the New Hampshire CWO May Day. It's a good opportunity to go and learn and see and experience with everybody. But I spoke a little bit when it comes to my party, which I'm the chair for the Independent Collective Caucus. But inside of the CWO, I'm one of a small handful of veterans. And these are known leftist movements, right? Communist Party, Socialist Party, all of these names and groups that you've heard of forever. But now my hope and my intent is to see groups like Veterans for Peace, About Face, veterans as a whole start to come together as the pressure on us comes stronger and stronger, right? That this is the time to be coming together. And that's kind of where I spoke in my speech. I'll read out a little bit about it. Let me pull up the right one here. So it began talking about May Day event, but the important thing I wanted to talk about where I served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps, and I was among the fortunate not to go overseas and risk my life. And I say fortunate, this is going a little bit off the speech. I'm going to be breaking it up a little bit in parts. I was one of the fortunate not to go overseas and risk my life and experience the horrors of war in the name of patriotism for a nation that discards us once they have finished using us. Many are not so fortunate. Many go overseas, blinded by the machine of war, and many never come home. Those who do return to a society that was never built for them, nor was it meant for them. They are forever changed, and then they are abandoned. That veterans, like the worker, are subjected to the never-ending greed and exploitation of them by corporations and a failing government and a seemingly endless defense budget. It touches on this concept that the war machine affects us both, the worker and the veteran, because we fight the same fight at the end. We come home and we work jobs. The government doesn't give us any money. If you get anything from the VA, good luck if it actually covers anything. And that's if the VA actually is willing to cover or recognize anything that's happened to you. I can't begin to count the amount of stories I've heard of veterans applying for disability, and I hear 0%. Non-service related.
Ones with real serious conditions.
Serious conditions.
That the VA should be fully...
Should be covering entirely.
Yeah.
0%. Not service related. It's a phrase, and it hurts to hear because it's something that's just said all too often. But they went overseas and they did their part that they were told was their duty. It's your patriotic duty And they did it, and then they come home and they're abandoned. And where do you find solidarity? Where do you find community? Among other veterans, but other workers. These are the people alongside you every day. I work in telecommunications. People who work more industrial jobs, more on-hand work. People who work day to day working at Starbucks. We're all working together, and we're all, frankly, suffering together. And it's the same thing that we experience in the military. You form this close relationship with bond with those who have gone through what they've gone through with you. Mm-hmm. And now the workers and the veterans are experiencing these things together now. We just have a little bit of a different experience beforehand. But we're all facing the same exploitation now. It's the same machine. The same machine that feeds this endless series of wars that never wants to stop. How long did we go between Afghanistan and Iran?
A few years.
3 years, maybe?
Yeah.
You can't go too long. Because as soon as you start going too long, those defense contracts expire.
Even bringing up workers' solidarity amongst your coworkers, people put in the same position. We think of skeleton crews. We think of lack of funding to get something. We think of lack of equipment. And I think, what were the Afghanistan veterans' stories when the Iraq War kicked off? All the funding went there. All the material went there. They were short. They couldn't get things. They were waiting. They were neglected while they were overseas fighting. And people forgot we're in Afghanistan still because all the focus was on Iraq.
Yep.
But even at home, especially if you're in an industrial setting, what corporations are taking advantage of using certain processes that don't cover for your health? You think of all the OSHA violations for whatever's left of it now, but how do they protect workers? What do you develop after 20 years of doing something, exposing yourself to something, and to be just discarded, to not taken care for, to have your claims denied, and a VA that may or may not be there, for especially real ones, real claims, real ways that you were suffering and you were put in this harm's way by your government for whatever the foreign policy at the time was. And I was going to if you wanted to say anything else. I wanted to transition to the Iran war costs because we're still engaged. I don't know the status as of today.
Oh, we're still there.
I mean, what the public status is of what it's happening, if the blockade is over or if it's open or it's still
happening every day.
You can get lost in these things for what is being tweeted out or what the news is saying. But I can say this. I'm going to start with some low prices. They do, Secretary of Defense, because it's officially the defense.
It is
still.
Secretary of Defense. It's
Yes.
a nice little name tag.
Yeah.
That wants to pretend to be a Secretary of War.
Yeah. Well, to officially, because it's an act of Congress to make it official, it's going to cost, Congressional Budget Office estimates $125 million to just change this over across all government. I imagine the bureaucracy to change the name officially, but $125 million is going to be spent to change this over if Congress passes it. $125 million, what would that do? Let's go to a bigger number. Cost of War Project, Watson Institute at Brown University just did a budgetary cost of the operations in the Caribbean, Venezuela, and East Pacific, so narco-terrorism, whatever you want to call it. That was 4.7 billion roughly between August and end of March. 4.7 billion, that sounds like a big number. But let's go to the Iran war costs. And remember, the really, when you think I appreciate that Trump was so blatant about this because many people know this. On April 2nd, he said, "We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We're fighting wars. It's impossible for us to take care of daycare, Medicaid, Medicare, all these things." As of today, this morning, May 7th, it is estimated to be 61 billions. It's been going on for 68 days. The spending per day is slowed down because munitions aren't spent. I don't know what else besides munitions, but naval operations tends to be the big thing moving those assets around. Roughly 95 million a day right now. So if we were to take that and do a trade-off for each one, I'm just going to go public services here. If we were to take that $61 billion that we've spent on this war in Iran for whatever justification.
Let's pause for just a minute.
Yeah, go on.
On 61 billion, because it's so easy to break down the numbers, but $61 billion.
I have a hard time grasping that.
And that number is so high, and it feels almost as though it's become so easy to lose just how much that is. And almost like a lot of people have grown numb to that such high of a number, that it should be enraging the public that a number that high is gone in how many days?
68.
68 days.
About 61 billion. Roughly 95 million a day just for this operation in the Persian Gulf.
But we can't take care of healthcare at home. We
Right.
can't feed families at home. We can't feed children.
No.
Feeding children.
Because this is for the war.
Because
And
the
Iran
war
is
matters more.
is a national security threat. For
Conflict.
47 years.
It's a conflict. It's
For 47
It's a whole
years.
conflict.
Yeah.
There's people who can't even afford to stay warm at night or have a roof over their head at night. And they're Americans. These are people at home that we could be taking care of. 3 or 5 billion of that amount could have changed the lives of Americans in dramatic ways. Not even a quarter of that amount, and still could have changed the lives of Americans across the country. China, we talked about it a little before, recently built a brand new high-speed rail station that partially goes underground, that partially has covering, because they decided that the speed of their high-speed rail wasn't fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that came out to about 700, 500 million. But we still can't have high-speed rail in the United States. It's too much. It'll cost too much.
Because that's considered the state, like a state project. And they think of like, what did building the interstates here in the United States back, 30s, 40s, 50s, what did that do for us? What did that allow us to do for that spending? Creating jobs, the infrastructure, allow us to easy commerce. But you throw, what was it, 500?
500, 700 million.
For an impressive railway system that allows people to access travel to get place at a quicker speed. We don't have the money for that.
We don't even have any high-speed rail in the United States, to my knowledge.
Because again, there's no money in just handing it out to, I don't know, unless there's a profit that's going to turn itself over.
And that's the trick. Unless there's a profit. There needs to be a profit.
In few private hands, a massive profit, not some public program like the military. We all have a rank, we have a grade and time in service. We all can see publicly. There's whatever the commander is, or whatever level you're at, you could see who everybody makes, but there isn't some CEO or president
Exactly.
that isn't making grotesque amounts of money.
And that's making hidden bonuses that you don't get to see.
Yeah.
It's not like we have a Department of Transportation where we could have public visibility and public access to all of these initiatives that could be happening. But instead, let's go throw bombs and make no difference for 60 plus days. This was supposed to be 2 weeks, by the way.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be 2 weeks. And here we are now, months later.
Still. So, we ready for some
Let's
stats?
go.
So we take that 61 billion. If you put it let's say you take 61 billion, because it was so easy to spend this on this Iran war. It was just so easy to do this. What could we have covered with that? You could have covered 796,000 public school teachers' salary for a year. That's at $75K a year. There's about 3.25 million public school K through 12 teachers in the United States. Is it a sixth of the total?
Not even.
But you could have covered that much to ease the stress on the federal system for employing public school teachers. It's $75K a year, which isn't great, but it is something that alleviates the amount that was spent on, because you have to have certifications, you have to be licensed, you have to go to school, you have to get advanced education,
I
whatever
mean,
school.
depending on where you're living, that's still poverty level.
Still, yeah. But you're not going to get a house or have children or cover daycare on that wage if you're by yourself, particularly.
If you're by yourself, you might not even be able to get a studio to rent.
Without just being over your head in debt, just living on the edge. 6.35 million annual health insurance premiums covered. That's at 9.3K a year. We talk about Medicaid, Medicare, how much it costs. That's how many people 6.35 covered. We'll just handle that, because medical costs are one of the things that leads to debt in this country. How many people can't afford to have health care because it's cost so much? It could house 4.6 million homeless people in the United States. The only estimate I could really find that I thought had some credibility was 770,000. So many times over could they house people, and not just throwing money at somebody who you deem homeless. It's building a shelter. It's having staff. At roughly $13,000 a year, you could house a person in a shelter for the year, just many times over. And that is when you think of contracts from the federal government going to Boeing or Lockheed Martin, that is, there's some jobs in there. There are some jobs in there, but you are putting money into a service at the state or town level where you're employing people to help homeless people just have a roof over the head. And you could do it many times over, and just keep pumping the money out for war, because there's not as much money for covering people who don't have houses or a place to stay.
Well, they don't help produce capital.
They don't produce capital. 4.5 million parents daycare covered for at least 1 year. It's roughly like 13,000 a year as well. I think that's actually a little low, because I see estimates all over the place for daycare. But 4.5 billion if it was at 13 a year.
Regional depending.
That's a lot of people you helped out. It's a lot of parents you just helped out who couldn't find daycare, especially after COVID, especially with public school shutdowns. It's daycare. This is pre.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, even then, New York just passed for a few hundred million. Universal pre-K.
For the first year, right?
For the first time.
And it might go into the second, yeah.
Already. Just a few hundred million.
And for people who might not think, Manami's some, whatever they want to say, does that not help out the parents get to work?
It does. It allows them to go to work. It allows them not to have to quit their job. And ideally you don't even have to.
Trade-off.
Right? It's some trade-off. But we've demonized taking care of each other. Somehow we made it that we care so little for each other that people can stand to see people starving in the streets, kids starving. Kids go to school and they don't have food.
More people get upset about welfare and SNAP benefits, but are fine when our money gets put into a weapons program that blows up a school somewhere. So killing people with federal money is okay, fine, because it's war. It's against some dehumanized people over somewhere around the world.
Right.
But welfare at home for however much, or SNAP benefits for how much, is something grotesque.
We can't
have that. We won't have the federal government fund that. But war is okay. Okay. But that's where you're at when you think like that.
And to be fair, that's just the way the United States has always viewed everything. They've never changed that perspective. There was a couple of periods of time where they started to rebuff that idea. They started pushing some social welfare programs. And all it took was 30 years before, I think we had the Reagan era up here. And then everything dropped again. Individualism became everything else. My profit, my gain. And you wonder, are we now near that time where we look at these numbers and we're finally hitting that's a gross amount of numbers to hear, that we're not taking care of people. Mm-hmm. Let's do something about it now.
And it's not just this Iran war that's kicked off. We just spent $2 trillion between Iraq and Afghanistan. That's lowball because that's not the veterans care that will be coming down the road, paying for things. That is, these things just keep going. You keep having to pay for these things. They get more expensive. That's just when I gave that estimate of 61. That is what it's currently costing, not what future base reconstruction and whatnot. This is just gonna. I did add a new category for this. Pediatric cancer research. Children with cancer, you think all the moral questions come up, like why do kids get cancer? I think, can we research, can we get this out? Not only cancer, but children with cancer. It's about $350 million a year that costs. We could, with $61 billion, we could fund that research for 244 years. It seems like a drop in a bucket. Why can't we reallocate these funds? Why does it only have to go for war? Why is war the only one that's acceptable? Why is DOD, right? Why is foreign policy, whatever pushes, promotes, puts money into foreign policies, okay, but everything else we got to cut back? Because I just heard the other day that President Trump said we have to cut back on other things because we need more money for war. How does that fly? How?
Well, I say you. We'll never see the money. Pharmaceutical companies make more money selling the chemotherapy to children, to families who don't want to see their kid die. They make way more money dangling the hope that you might survive, that your kid might survive, rather than research a cure. And yet you'll still hear people say, well, that's just good business. Well, they're just making money. That's the whole point, isn't it?
To each their own, and money is a way to get yourself out of poverty. So you do what you got to do. Okay? That's what we accept.
That kid will never get a chance because they didn't fund research that could have cured that same cancer. Anytime research starts getting close, you have to shut it down. You can't have anything happening like that because then you lose the years and months of treatments. Why cure somebody right away when you can string them along for years and months? And they go into remission and you have to hope that it doesn't come back. But we don't have enough money.
No. So for fiscal year 2022, there were about 2.16 million federal employees. This is federal level. The DOD makes up 34% of that, about 746,000 employees. VA makes up 20%. That's number one and number two right there. That's dedicated to war stuff. That's war related. DHS, right? You think of domestic policies. That's about 10%. Then you get to the human health services, 4% of all federal employees at 88,000. Labor, anybody dedicated to labor is 1%, 14,000 employees across all. Of the 2 million dedicated for federal employees. Housing, it averages at 0% at 8,000 employees. That's all that's dedicated. Because I bring that up because Trump has just proposed 73 billion cuts for housing and labor and education, right? Where was in education, it also averages at 0% of the total federal employees, 4,000 across the United States. We have 746,000 personnel in DOD, but we can't fund education. When he says can't fund education, for whatever else is out there, those 4,000 employees are really taking up too much of the federal budget.
It's hard to hear. Hard to hear in the sense of it's frustrating. It should be frustrating. It should be upsetting. Education is one of the most vital parts of any society, any country, any part of the world. Education matters. And access to that education matters. Massachusetts, I believe, has free community college for Massachusetts residents. That's just offering the opportunity, There's a lot of people who normally will never get the opportunity to get to go to school because how could we ever afford it? College costs hundreds of thousands of dollars now. But now Massachusetts has offered the opportunity for people to go to college and get in higher education for free. Because the state has money. All they need to do is care about the citizen. But educated people generally care about the masses. They learn. They have a higher opportunity to be able to learn, develop a skill, and return back to the community. Because these are skills that we need in general. But if you make sure that the people can never get that kind of education, and whatever education system exists, you dismantle, it becomes infinitely easier to teach the citizen whatever you want them to think. You have complete control over that person now, because they were never taught to think for themselves, to develop their own moral compass that's built on a wide expanse of knowledge. Instead, the only moral compass they're allowed to build is this small little bubble that you built for the citizen.
I'm going to be superficial but I think of in history, if you have an illiterate public or peasants, and the only one that can read is the local priest who can read you the word of God, you have to rely on the local priest. But what did literacy do for people when they were able to be educated? They could learn to read. What did people do? How did America think about with slaves reading? Why did they frown upon that? Why is we have a K through 12 to allow for a education of public, which allows us to be free. We can educate ourselves. We have the potential to learn about our society and how it functions. And there are problems with public education. You can say that, but to cut it, to go back to what are societies around us today that don't have a public education system or a society that is educated or can read. What does that look like? Is that something we want? So we shouldn't have public education? Only the rich should be able to send their kids to a school? Is that what we should be doing? I'm having a hard time with it, but again, I've only been paying attention for so long. I just have to say more recently, like, my goodness, we want to crush public schools? Is that what we really want? Even though there may be issues with them, whether it's upon them or not, whether it's that school, but really, we want to go back? Should we be literate? Should we not be able to read? Unless it gets us a particular job, maybe we should just be able to read the manual and fix the thing or do the process.
It's been such a steady growth of a hate of the public education system. You hear constantly the failures of the public education system. Well, they keep taking away funding.
Yeah.
They keep taking away funding, keep taking away funding. How can you exist if you don't have the money to be able to give the education? Every year, more and more. Now, how many federal employees? 4,000 for the country.
Overseeing public education in the United States,
for
4,000.
the country.
And it's too much.
And that's too much still.
Too much. But we're about to ask for 1.5 trillion for DOD. They're going to ask for it. Probably going to get it. And that's over 50% of what we just had. Somewhere if without Department of Energy, without the nuclear stuff, that's not even including that. It's not going to include what it's going to cost for the VA for whatever it's doing, even though it's being privatized and outsourced. It still has a massive funding and people working there. So much dedicated to foreign policy to either capture markets overseas or destroy them or control them, whatever it is, but there is profits to be made. And for example, if you don't own it, what happened to Nord Stream 1 when the Russian war kicked off? What happened to U.S. exports to Europe because Europe no longer had a cheap gas coming from Russia? Sure, you could demonize Russians and say we shouldn't be supporting them, and it's fine that it's cut off, but like we had people here at home getting rich. Few, select few from a certain industry getting rich off of that from exports, but what are we doing when it comes to our East Asian partners now because of exports from Iran or just the GCC in general from Persian Gulf? What are they going to pay? We have now LNG projects up in Alaska and elsewhere. We're going to ship over to Asia. How is that not in their interests?
Absolutely, it is. They want their. It goes straight back to that war as a racket.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of World War I, only a certain amount of people really profited.
Yeah.
And
grotesque figures.
In every war, there's always a select amount of people who are making a good profit.
They did their patriotic duty by making ridiculous sums of money, making new millionaires and billionaires profiting from war. Not the people in the trenches.
Nope.
Not the people who served in those things with a horrendous pay, let alone the conditions they were in. Not most people. Some people may have gotten jobs, and they're the ones that promote, like, oh, this is very good. But for the discarded, who were working the dirty stuff, who did nightmarish things overseas.
It's the same. It's the same every time. And when you see cuts like that are proposed, cuts that are given and told, that's your government telling you that this bomb, this bullet, is worth more than you. Mm. The ability to produce this weapon of war is worth more than you. You as a person need to be able to eat, sleep, grow. In this society, we go to school and we learn. And in the society that we're in, we work and we perform a service in exchange for return. Now they're telling you we need to cut out the education part, but we also need to cut out the feeding part, but we also need to cut out the housing part, but still work. But now we're also cutting out the return of wages.
Just be thankful.
Be thankful you even have that.
Be thankful you even have that. Just diminish, I don't know what you call that, diminishing. Just be thankful because many people won't have it, and you'll just be thankful you had some crumbs.
That you're not like everybody else who, in increasing numbers, are becoming unhoused and unable to maintain jobs because they just don't have. You need an address to apply for a job. Mm. How do I apply for a job if I don't have an address? I can't get a job because I don't have an address. I can't make money, so I can't get rent. You know? So all you have left in that line that I just laid out is you work. All you're doing now, your government has told you, all your value is, and all we care about is that you're able to produce.
Your labor, that is.
Your labor is the only thing they want from you. They do not care about you otherwise.
How did we get like an 8-hour working day or benefits or pensions? How did that?
Social welfare programs. FDR brought in a lot of that. A lot of unions. Unions fought. There was a long-standing time in this country where unions were symbols of strength, of power, pride. People had pride in unions. There are videos of May Day celebrations in the United States, of parades, and I believe they're going down New York, parades of all of the local unions, all of the people, everybody supporting it. But then came the Red Scare, and you can't have the people getting too powerful together. So we fought for these things like an 8-hour workday, the weekend. We get, out of 7 days, we get 2 days where most businesses and most functions aren't even available to you to live, to exist. Working shifts these days are becoming 10 hours, 12-hour shifts. I work 50 hours a week. I get out of work at, if I'm fortunate, 4 o'clock, most times 6 o'clock. Everything's closed. Business day's done. And I'm lucky that I'm one of the ones who doesn't have to work 7 days a week. There's people who work 7 days a week and they just do not have any time. And if you want to do anything like a doctor's appointment, you have to take your kid to school, you have to go to your kid's performance, any kind of like event, and you have to skip out of work for that. And then when you skip out of work, you might get fired because you're not producing enough. And what protects you in those instances is a union. I have family who very recently experienced what a union does to protect you. There was, and a lot of people generally might relate to this, there was a manager who came in, and we have sick time, personal time, vacation time. These are all things that were fought for by unions and groups that we maintained. But tell me they don't make you feel bad for wanting to take sick time. Tell me you've never heard a manager say, we're really short-staffed right now. We need you to come in. Oh, you're going to take a day off? We're really struggling right now.
And aren't they always looking for the employee that's willing to go above and beyond and not account for their time?
But what is above and beyond really saying? It's, I'm willing to cut my life and reduce my quality of life for capital. That's who they want to keep. So if you aren't able to reduce your quality of life, willing to reduce your quality of life to produce, get out of here. They'll fire you.
He's just not a.
You're not a team player.
Not a team player, just not a go-getter. We like people that are willing to sacrifice, work on the weekends, work on your time off, take your work home with you.
And maybe in an era where working a weekend a month was actually building towards something like buying a home, buying a car.
Yeah.
You know,
you want to being
able to get your kid.
You're going to see something from it.
You know? But now, working 7 days a week, you're trying just to have a house. Not even a house, a rental apartment.
Yeah.
That story that I had started, the manager was upset because my family member had needed to take time off for surgery. And the time that they had planned finished. They came to work for a day and unfortunately got sick and took a sick day. But capitalism has left us feeling like, oh, you came back to work for a day and you took another sick day. I think you just don't want to work. When people get sick and we have sick time. But the manager tried to make a case that my family member just didn't want to work. Why would I want to have somebody who doesn't want to work here? And then the union, right? Because you're required to have a union rep with you when the manager wants to come talk to you like that with HR present. Your union will be there with you to protect you because the union looked at them and said, I want you to tell me, please say that you don't want your employees taking sick time if they're sick. Well, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. So what are you saying? I'm just saying that it happened to line up that way. Does this person not have the right to use the time they earned? Well, yeah. So what are we doing here? The person didn't want my family member there because they used something that they had earned the right to use, because they would have preferred them suffer and take away from their quality of life to produce at the cost to themselves. And that's just one example that I very recently got to experience of a union protecting and a union helping you. And this is, I hope, something that can be universally learned, that organize in your workplace. Your unions will help you and protect you and grow and ensure that you aren't hurt by these states that are at will work. Because we all know what at will work means. It means your job can fire you for any time, any reason. They don't need any good reason. They can just fire you.
Just replace you with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else willing to sacrifice more.
But if you have the union protecting you, they can't just do that to you. And that's why corporations have fought so hard to push anti-union mindsets. Oh, the union's going to make you pay dues. I pay $11 a month for the IWW. I'm paying $11 a month to make sure that there's backed and organized union protecting me with a history of success. So if my local workplace was to organize, then that means all of these people who have been fired constantly, over and over and over, people keep getting fired, they would have a chance to be protected. Your coworkers could be protected. You can be protected. And it just takes the time to organize. There's laws that they don't want you knowing about that you have protections against union busting.
Yeah.
You're protected. This is your right as an American to organize, come together as workers. But we don't have enough money to take care of us.
Yeah. We are coming out of time here. The importance of unions, coming together, finding solidarity with your coworkers. We're all in the same conditions. We all pretty much want the same things. But this will have to be continued in a follow-up. Yes. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for tuning in at home. See you next time.